Greetings, adventurer. Welcome to the D20 Academy podcast. I'm Shiloh.
And I'm Gabriel, and this week is episode 60, our Pathfinder 2nd Edition breakdown.
Hey guys, how's it going? We're talking about Pathfinder 2nd Edition today. What it is, what we like, what we don't like, if you should play it, if you like it, how similar it is to D&D 5th Edition, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and of course, you want to be up to date on all the different RPGs. You also want to be up to date on our podcast and all things that are happening. If you do,
Nice.
because you want to be up to date, just like everyone else is, go follow us on Instagram at D20_Academy. You can message us there to get into our Discord where you can converse with us directly. And we also have a YouTube up under the name D20 Academy if you prefer to listen to us on there. We've got all of our episodes up there for you guys to listen to. Alright, let's jump into it.
Yo.
Yeah.
Arrivederci, everybody. Welcome to us talking about Pathfinder 2nd Edition.
And you might notice, this isn't D&D. It's weird, right?
What? What? Not D&D?
But D&D is the only role-playing game.
That's what I thought. I'm sure of it. No, idiot. You're wrong. Hey guys, so Pathfinder, it's a game. You've probably heard of it. You might have heard of it. Maybe not. It's in like the top 5 most popular role-playing games, I think. Don't know if I'd say it's number 2. Don't know what I would say number 2 is, but
If it's called Cthulhu, I'm gonna cry.
We're not talking about Call of Cthulhu yet. Okay, that's another episode. That's later this month. Actually, I don't know if that's later this month. I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
Is it?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, that's later this month. Hey, no, guys, we're talking about Pathfinder 2nd Edition.
A bit of the history of Pathfinder. It branched off from 3.5, right?
I don't know. You know more about this than I do.
So I'm pretty sure Pathfinder 1st Edition was originally like some like house rules and some community made like rules that people made for 3.5 for D&D 3.5, and it became really popular among the community. It formed its own community, and it added like more rules, more modules and stuff for their specific rules for 3.5e, and then they released a 2nd edition. And that's what we're talking about now.
And this came out, what, last year?
I can't keep track of time. I think so. It could be last year, last decade.
Yep, last century. I think it's sometime in the last century.
Yep.
This came out somewhat recently. Not like last week, but last year, maybe a little over that. Not completely sure. The thing is, though, they've been releasing the books, like the core books, periodically. So actually, they didn't release like a big bunch of books. They just released the core rulebook, and then they've been dropping other stuff. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
So right now we have the core rulebook, which is so large.
Sitting pretty at 642 pages.
Yep, it's like 2.5 times as big as the Player's Handbook for 5th edition. And they released a bestiary, which I think is like the same size as the Monster Manual, maybe a little bigger.
And the Game Master's Guide.
Just recently they released a Game Mastery Guide, which, holy crap, they should have released way earlier, but we're not going to get into it. Well, we are going to get into it, but not right now. And they also have a world guide for the Pathfinder world called Golarion or something.
Yeah.
Golarion.
Something like that.
Or maybe Golarion's just the continent.
Yeah.
I'm not totally sure. And to be honest, I don't really care.
Golarion.
Anyway, so they released a world guide to Golarion.
It's the world.
Okay, that's the whole world.
Yeah.
But it's called the Lost Omens World Guide, not the Golarion World Guide. So just... And then they have...
Well, because it's only talking about a specific part of the world.
Yeah. Anyway. Then you have an advanced player's guide. So the advanced player's guide is like a kind of like a Xanathar's. They detail some deeper rules and things, and they add some new like subclasses and stuff like that, or kind of the equivalent to that. But also, it's like a ton of alternative rules, and a ton of new like spells and feats and stuff like that.
Yes, so much for players. It's literally
So much,
insane amount.
So, what is Pathfinder really? Well, it uses the D20 system, same as 5th edition, same as D&D.
Mm-hmm.
Well, D&D hasn't always used it. Anyway, 5th edition. D20 system, it's very similar to D&D. If you're familiar with 5th edition, which 99% of you listening to this are, Pathfinder, very similar.
Yeah.
D20 system, you have your 6 ability scores, strength, dex, I'm about to say agility, dex, con, whiz, all that kind of stuff. You have, a race, a class, there's 20 levels, very similar.
Yeah.
In all the main, like, conceptual mechanic pieces. However, Pathfinder is notoriously insanely more complex. Just way more complex. And we're going to get into if it's too complex for you at the end of the episode.
What are we going to do? An IQ test?
Yep. No, but we're going to talk about if this is a good game for you at the end. But just know it's like a very... Second edition is like a complex, more detailed, more intricate, more customizable version of 5th edition.
Essentially, it's a good comparison, I think.
Yeah. And we have, like, not really played it at all. We have, a little bit.
A bit.
But barely.
And we're getting back into it. With at least one campaign about to start. But...
Well, not a campaign per se.
Sure.
But, a couple sessions at least.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, actually tomorrow, we're gonna play a game. If we were smart, we would have recorded this after we played it a bit more. But hey, we have played it a little bit. I've seen some people play it. And I've read through the books a lot. Me and Gabe both have. So we're very familiar with the system, just not totally in practice. But not a lot of people have played it because it is fairly new and it's a little more niche. Actually, it's way more niche than 5th edition. Yeah. So let's talk about how it works. Gabe, how does it work?
All right, so you roll a d20, you add stuff to it, maybe subtract some stuff from it, and you see if it beats what you're trying to beat. There we go.
Yep.
That's how the game works.
One thing. Changes it. Here's some differences in 5th edition. 5th edition does not like floating modifiers, okay? For the most part. They don't want little bonuses, little minuses to your rolls, a lot of complex things adding together and affecting each other. Instead, they scrapped all of that and went with advantage and disadvantage. Love it. Love it. Fine. Works for 5th edition. Great. Pathfinder wants to be that detail. So, they have all kinds of floating modifiers. So that's a big difference. A lot of different things affecting other things and little bonuses. They have, instead of a proficiency bonus that just eventually changes every, 5 or so levels, you have 4 different levels of proficiency. So, trained, or untrained, I guess 5.
So 5 total.
Untrained, trained, expert, master, and legendary. And each of these proficiency levels is a number plus your level. So trained is 2 plus your level, expert is 4 plus your level, then 6, the master 6 plus your level, and legendary is 8 plus your level. And untrained is nothing.
So just from that, you can already tell, listening, that the numbers in Pathfinder are really high.
Yeah, talk about that real quick.
Yeah, so the numbers on everything get really high. Because even at first level, okay, my proficiency bonus is what? If I'm trained in it, it's 3, you know? But at 10th level, when you're trained in something, it's 12.
Yeah. Big difference
It's a
from
big difference.
a proficiency bonus of +2 to +4 as it is in D&D.
And okay, not everything is big. Like, damage itself doesn't necessarily get as big as
but at least
other numbers.
for
But
the
to
D20
hit,
rolls.
like your attack modifier, your spell save DC, your
Armor class.
saving throws, exactly. These all get to really high numbers because of how proficiency works.
Armor class at high levels is like 30 something or whatever. Like, it gets crazy. And also, things you're proficient in and things you're not proficient in, huge difference.
Yeah.
Very, very big difference there. And you're asking, hey, so that means that every single time I level up, I have to change every single one of my skills because they all get a +1, because I just got a level. Actually, every single thing I'm proficient in, so all my weapons, my armor, my saving throws, my magic, all my skills. And the answer is yes, you do. You have to add a +1 to everything that you're proficient in every single time you level up. So just play on Roll20 and just do it all digitally so you don't ruin your paper. Speaking of paper, here's another kind of signal to you that's a little more complex. The character sheets are 4 pages long.
That's true.
So
these character sheets are packed.
Now, D&D, also technically they're 3 pages long.
Sure.
Because there is the main sheet, and then like the character description sheet, and then the spell sheet if you're a spellcaster. In this one, there's the main character sheet, and then just where you put all your feats and your equipment,
which we'll get into later.
Then you put like all your actions and a little bit of character descriptor as well. There's a little section as that, and then a spell sheet as well. So 4 pages to keep track of. Real fun, that. Yeah, so it's more complex. Gabe, what do you think makes it more complex or more detailed?
Everything, to be honest. Well, okay. Start off with how, like, it's intentionally more complex and detailed.
Yeah.
And so it's not like it's like, oh, it happened to be this way. No, it's made to be this way. And they made it so that there is a little bit more bookkeeping. It's not like there's an insane amount, necessarily. There's more floating modifiers, more things, but that enables you to do like things like, oh, I cast a spell that gives me this like little floating modifier for this kind of check or attack or something. So it is more complex because they wanted to give the players more options and more things that they can affect. If that makes sense.
I mean, yeah, not just players as in everyone at the table, including the DM.
Yes, including the DM.
Just,
sure.
Everyone, just more options, more detail, and they have rules on like everything. So like in D&D, if you want to climb something, you just make an athletics check. And you make an athletics check for any kind of athletic maneuver you do. But in Pathfinder, there are certain actions for like every single thing. If you want to slide, if you want to jump, if you want to do a flip, if you want to climb something, if you want to swim, there's rules and stuff for every single one of these. Not every single, but essentially. So more detailed, more book referencing. But it doesn't, I mean, it bogs it down, I guess, in a way. But it depends on what you want your game to be like. Because for some of you like, that might sound horrible to you. You're like, that's going to slow down my game. That's pointless. But for other people, they're like, I want to have all these specific rules. I want my game to be authentic. I want it to be detailed. I want to be able to use all these little detailed rules and stuff to maximize my potential as a character or in combat. Use tactics, whatever. Be strategical, all that kind of stuff.
Like, I want to have a thing where there's a specific rule for averting my gaze from some sort of visual ability, like a Medusa. Or what exactly happens when I roll to make sure that I catch onto the edge when I'm falling off a cliff.
Right.
For some examples there.
Yeah, it's just more detailed, basically. So for different things. And so it depends on the kind of game that you want, and what your playgroup wants.
Yes.
For example, we want to start trying out Pathfinder because our gaming group has been playing D&D for years. We are all very proficient in 5th edition. We never need to look up rules, barely ever. We know how it works. We can play it very smoothly. We know all the rules, know all the mechanics, know all the classes, all that kind of stuff. So our gaming group, we can play 5th edition fine because we've been playing it for years. And now, because we're so familiar with it, sometimes 5th edition can get a little boring, repetitive. And so Pathfinder is, giving us something that is more detailed. It's same system, same concepts, but more detailed, more customizable, and all that kind of stuff.
Let's get into that
which
now.
we want.
Let's get into player characters, and character creation, and character advancement.
Yeah.
All right. So, you know how there's that option rule that a lot of people use in D&D 5th edition where you can take a feat instead of a ability score increase? Now, take that idea of feat out of your mind, because in Pathfinder, everything's feats.
Yeah.
Pretty much everything is feats. There are, racial feats. There are heritage feats, which is like your sub-race. There are class feats. There are general feats. There are skill feats. There's a lot of feats. Lots of feats. And it's amazing, and we'll get into that later, about the things we like. But basically, when you choose your character, choose your class, choose your race, and at first level, you choose some feats. Next time you level up, you choose some more feats. Next time you level up, you choose some more feats, some different feats. And it has it clearly laid out in your class table what level you take what kind of feat. And these feats range from, okay, I get better at convincing people of something, to, oh, this is one of my class features that I take at this level.
Yeah, okay. So, imagine this. You know how awesome it is in D&D when you level up and you get a new thing? Maybe you get a new feature. Maybe you get access to more spells. And you know how fun that is? Okay, now imagine every single time you level up, you get 7 different options. No, actually not always that much. 5 different options of features you can get. And another set for something different. So okay, you level up. Now choose another class feat from these 5 different options. Or any option from a past level. Okay, and choose a skill feat at this level as well from any number of these skill feats. And it's just so customizable. Is it overwhelming and are there many options? Yes. Once again, this isn't for everybody. But there's so many options and it's so customizable. In D&D, if we're all playing Barbarian, in D&D, if we're all playing Barbarian, we can choose different subclasses, maybe get some different weapons, have a couple different playstyles, but essentially we're all the same. In Pathfinder, we're playing Barbarian, we can play quite different characters. Different mechanical strengths and weaknesses and all that kind of stuff. Because it's very customizable, which is awesome.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's my favorite part about the game. I think it's what draws a lot of people to the system.
Yeah,
it's because you can customize as much as you want.
Character creation is awesome.
Mm-hmm. I just realized we completely skipped over the action economy.
No, we're gonna talk about that.
All right.
Don't you worry. So creating a character, a lot of fun. Once again, complex, a lot of options, a lot of things to choose from, but real fun. We've all created a couple characters, and leveling up, real fun.
Real fun. Lots of stuff to do.
Yep. However, I will say that subclasses are really small and minimized in this game. It's you choose your subclass at first level. It gives you a little feature just at first level when you choose it, and that's it. Instead, your subclass is really not important that too much. Instead, subclasses are kind of, in a way, done in these things called archetypes. Gabe, can you explain those?
Yes. So, in like the class like section, like if you're looking at like the barbarian, and you're going through looking at the feats you can take at this certain levels. Okay, like here's a character like archetype here. We're talking about different archetypes. I'm dumb. You know, sometimes I don't think.
Wait, what?
Archetype's the wrong word.
I'm
Anyway.
so confused.
It will give you examples of builds. Like if you're looking at the barbarian, like, okay, what about this one? Who's like, they'll call it like, oh, marauder. Take these feats at these levels, and
Wait, what?
see, we're talking about different things. Is what I'm saying.
Oh, I see. Okay. I'm
Yes.
a little lost, but sure, keep going.
It'll give you like, examples of how you can make your barbarian like this by taking these feats.
Oh,
So it can
yes,
kind of make you like you have a subclass, but essentially you're just following a guide to make a build.
Yes.
Like you play like this thing, and so it's kind of like giving you an idea of what a subclass would be like.
Yeah, that's cool. However, let's not be
that's not what he
confused.
was
Let's just call
talking
those
about.
examples. Yeah, let's not get confused. Let's just call those examples. Yeah, that's cool. For each
Examples.
class, there's like 3 little sidebars that give you an example if you want to kind of play this kind of character at first level. Here's what you build, here are the skills you choose and stuff. Yes, very neat. Sorry, I meant archetypes. Archetypes. As in, yes, the archetype system.
Which is different, and we're going to get into that now, because I was completely out of it. Alright, archetypes. Archetypes are cool. Archetypes is like a better way of multi-classing.
And subclassing.
Yeah, sure. Yes, that's true. With the Advanced Player's Guide release.
Yeah.
Archetypes. How do you describe them? They give you the option to take feats from other classes and from these different archetypes that allow you to branch out or specialize your character.
Yeah. So imagine them as mini classes. So at certain levels, 2nd, 4th, stuff like that, instead of taking a feat from your own class, you can branch down into a little mini class and take some of the feats from that little mini class. And this is also how you multi-class. So the character that I made, he's a rogue, but I took the cleric archetype. So I multi-class a little bit into cleric. So at some of the levels where I can take a rogue feat, I instead have taken a cleric feat. Well, no, that's not exactly true. But a feat from this little cleric archetype. Mm-hmm. This little mini class.
And I'm sure this all sounds really confusing without the rulebook in front of you.
Yes.
And it's a little bit confusing with the rulebook in front of you.
Yeah.
But it's really great.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, it's just like a little mini class that you can take feats from. You can choose to take feats from that. And that's kind of how you multi-class. But there's also, with the Advanced Player's Guide, not just multi-class options. There's also just a ton of other little mini classes. Like pirates, and that's the only one I can think of right now.
I'm going to the APG.
Pirates and assassins and whatever little mini classes, little focuses that anyone can take some levels in.
Alright, so, yes. In addition to the other classes, you can take some things like their feats, like their features. They released 42 new ones with the Advanced Player's Guide. And these range from, as you were saying, pirate to, say, like, a celebrity, a cavalier, a bounty hunter, a beastmaster, an assassin, an archaeologist. You know, all sorts of different things that you can choose to take and specialize your character in, you know? Or it makes you different from just a normal rogue. You're now an archaeologist, too.
Yeah. Once again, customization. Just really cool. Really cool.
Really cool.
It's just neat. That's the truth of it. Lots of customization. You can just make any kind of character you want, really, and that's just really cool. Okay, keeping on character creation, let's go over the ancestries real quick. So obviously at first level you choose an ancestry, which is just a race. Now, a little bit of a bummer. They don't like have a lot in the core rulebook. Not as much as in D&D. They only have human, elf, dwarf, gnome, halfling, and goblin. Right?
I think so. Yeah.
That's only 6 ancestries or 6 races. Yeah. Sorry, were you going to say something?
No. Yeah, I was just counting them as well.
So only 6 ancestries, so not a lot of options. However, now we're getting a little crazy. Once you choose your ancestry, you get some basic stuff, right? Boosts to certain ability scores. Like if you're a dwarf, Constitution. If you're an elf, Dexterity, that kind of stuff.
A little racial feat.
Yeah, and you get to choose a heritage, which is like a sub-race.
Yeah, so just like you can choose a hill dwarf in 5th edition.
Yes.
You can choose a something dwarf. Can't remember the dwarf heritage.
Yeah, there's a couple different heritages. Except that the heritages in this are very minor. Whatever you choose, the feature you get from them are really, really minor. Okay, and then you also get to choose feats every 5 or so levels. Yes. So at first level, you have an option of racial or ancestral feats. So if you're an elf, and you become an elf, right? When you create your character at your first level, you have these options of different feats to take. Just increasing your speed, or making, getting a cantrip or whatever it is. And then at 5th level, there's a couple more options that you can choose. 9th level, stuff like that. Once again, just more options. More things you get to choose from to make your character more specific.
And pretty much all of these, they're all meant to put into the show in the game things that have shaped you as your race, or some of them are just physical things that you have because you're a dwarf or because you're whatever race you choose. A lot of these feats fit really well with okay, I learned this because of my background where I was raised as a dwarf. And they're not just powers. They're meant to fit the race. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Yep. Oh, okay. Also, there are, and with the Advanced Player's Guide added, the heritages are really cool.
Oh, sorry.
So, if you're human, your heritage, your sub-race, you can choose skilled or versatile, but you can also choose half-elf or half-orc, which gives you the ability to, if you take that heritage, now you can take, whenever you take a racial feat, instead of choosing a human feat, you can also choose one from the elf or the orc. Which is really cool.
Yes, and then with the Advanced Player's Guide, they added 10 new ancestries and a bunch of new heritages. And some of them...
10 new ancestries?
Yeah, 10 new ancestries.
Oh, dang. But, explain the cool, tiefling and stuff.
Oh, yeah. So the way that, tieflings and Aasimars work in this world, in this system, is that they're called versatile heritages, which means that any of the ancestries can take them. If that makes sense. It means, you can become a dwarf tiefling. And this might be a little bit weird coming from 5th edition, where tiefling is its own separate race. But in here, it's something that, you're touched by the 9 hells, And it doesn't matter what race you are. It still can be your heritage. And I really like that. It allows you to,
I really like that as well.
Mix things up a little bit more, You can be
I think that's really cool.
Elven Aasimar, human Aasimar, a dwarven Aasimar. Anything.
Yeah.
It's nice. I like it.
Yeah, it's really cool. Okay, is that all we have to say about this? Real quick, classes. Oh, you also choose a background, which is a little more helpful, a little more important than in D&D, but not too much so. Also, your classes, the classes are... Do you have them in front of you? What are the classes?
Yeah, classes are... I'm almost there. Almost
Here we
there.
go. Alchemist, barbarian, bard, champion, cleric, druid, fighter, monk, ranger, rogue, sorcerer, wizard.
Mm-hmm.
So very similar to 5th edition, except we lose the warlock, and we pick up the alchemist, and the paladin becomes the champion. Right?
Yep.
Pretty sure those are the only differences. And these classes, all very similar to their counterparts in D&D when it comes to like the concept and theme and stuff.
Exactly.
Just once again, a little more complex, more customizable. Instead of just leveling up and just getting the next feature, you get an array of options to choose from.
All right, moving on. The monster and encounter system is way simpler than D&D 5th edition.
Wait. Let's not get into GMing yet.
Oh, okay.
Let's talk about. Oh yeah. Okay. Let's talk about equipment real quick, because that's just like the next chapter.
Okay.
So in equipment, their weapons have. Oh, also shields are like a big thing in Pathfinder. Raising a shield, you track your shield's health when you can use it to reduce damage. You have to use an action on your turn, which we're gonna get into, to raise your shield, to block attacks, to increase your AC and stuff. Just more complexity to shields, and making them more realistic. Like if you want to raise it or if you want to use it to block, all that kind of stuff. By the way, but weapons and stuff in general, so many traits.
Yeah, weapons in this game, you know how this weapon is so similar to this weapon in D&D 5th edition. Like, it's just like, oh, I just change the dice size, or now it's 2d6 instead of 1d10. In here, every weapon is unique.
Yeah.
Every single weapon has its own array of weapon traits that change how you play with the weapon. To change your play style.
Yeah. There are a lot of weapons. A lot. And a lot of traits. Each weapon has the price, the damage, how much it weighs, which will... we'll get into that in a second because we're talking about equipment, which is just so much better. How many hands it takes to attack with, and its traits. So some you will recognize: finesse, which means you can use dex instead of strength.
Mm-hmm.
Thrown, right? You can now throw it. Reach. A couple of the terms like versatile. Instead of meaning if you use it with 2 hands, you deal different damage dice. It means that versatile, you can change the damage type. So, for example, with a...
With a long sword, you can either
right.
slash with it, or you can pierce with it, you can stab with it.
Yep, which is really cool. Once you get in a little more detail. And then, there's a ton of other stuff. Disarm. Okay, so there's a couple like action ones which give you the ability to take actions with them. Like disarm, sweep, trip, shove. That kind of stuff. That means that when you're wielding this weapon, you have access to be able to do those things. Trip them, disarm them, whatever. And then some just have
more options to do in combat. By the way.
Yep.
In addition to all the other stuff.
And then some just have other traits like agile or deadly or backstabber. Just if you can tell, so much traits and so much weapons. It's beautiful.
Yeah. I love it.
So every single weapon is different. You can have a bunch of weapons that all deal 1d10 damage, but they can be so different because of all their different traits and how much hands they take up and how much they weigh. Let's talk about bulk.
Bulk is a lot simpler. I don't know what went through Wizards' mind when they're like, let's do pounds. They're gonna love that. Love tracking individual pounds of stuff. No. With equipment in Pathfinder 2nd Edition, it gives you a number of bulk. So it either has, it's like bulk 1, or if it's super, super light, it'll just give you an L. So you lose the game. No. If it's super light, it says L, and if you use 10 of those, then it equals 1 bulk. It's really simple.
Yeah. So an axe is like 2 bulk. A short sword is like 1 bulk. And then all the small things, arrows, all that kind of stuff, it just says L for light, and 10 of those equals 1 bulk. And then you just have your encumbrance, which is based off of like 5 plus your strength. And then you can become encumbered when you have an amount over that. And then, of course, you can only hold an amount equal to like your total encumbrance value, which is like 10 plus your strength, something like that.
Yeah.
Okay? Now, most tabletop RPGs have a system similar to this. A very basic bulk system. Each you just assign a weapon, like a number from like 1 to 5, or like, an item, a number from like 1 to 5, depending on how big it is or how much it weighs. And then you probably have some kind of system to deal with really, really light items. And then you just have a bulk number, which is a small number, probably has to do with your strength, your con, or something like that. The Star Wars role-playing game we play, Edge of the Empire, has a similar bulk system. But for some reason, did we talk about this in our 5th edition rant?
I don't know.
D&D 5th edition uses pounds. And it's like, you're the game that's supposed to be simple. You're the one who's supposed to be simple and streamlined and not complex and not detailed. That's the point of you, 5th edition. And they do pounds. And nobody tracks that. Nobody tracks that. Okay?
No one wants to track pounds. It's not worth it.
That's really irritating to me. Now, some people don't care about encumbrance at all in their games. I like it. I like having encumbrance in games. Definitely as for both the DM and a player. As a DM, I don't like it when my players can just carry around 7,000 pieces of gold, 2 axes, crazy stuff like that. Like in Skyrim or in Witcher, where you're walking around with 3 outfits, 7 swords, a club, 2 bows. And first of all, you can't see any of that on your character, and then also you can just hold all that somehow. Once again, we'll suspend some disbelief in video games and in tabletop RPGs of how much you can hold, really. But I like, as a DM, I want that to be a challenge for them on how they can hold things, how they're going to carry things, what they have to be smart with. As a player, I like that challenge. Don't care too much, but I like it. And in D&D 5th edition, the system is so complex and stupid and such a waste of time that you're not tracking your encumbrance. And so then it's not even a part of the game. But with Pathfinder, if you want it to be a part of your game, which you should, yeah. Because, you're tracking a gazillion other detailed things, so might as well. In Pathfinder, the bulk system is really nice and simple and just nice. Yeah.
It's just nice.
It's just nice. Let's talk about spellcasting real quick, because that's next on the docket.
Spellcasting. It's a little bit different from 5th edition, but not too much.
Yeah, it's very similar.
Yeah. Spell slots work pretty much the same, except they go from 1 to 10 instead of 1 to 9. They're 10th level spells. There are the different magical schools, but there's 4 different magical types. There's divine,
yes,
arcane, primal, which is what like druids use, and occult, which is what like bards use.
So, instead of having a class spell list, depending on what kind of magic your class uses, you can just choose from that spell list.
Yes.
Which is a nice way to do it for the future. If you ever want to add classes, you just give them the magic type, instead of having to make a class spell list for every single class.
Mm-hmm. Much simpler that way. I like it. And spellcasting, other than that, works a lot the same, with a couple differences. When you prepare spells, you prepare them at the level that you want to cast. You know it at that level. So you can prepare a fireball at 3rd level. You can't upcast it to 5th level necessarily, unless you prepare it that way.
Right. I forgot about that.
Which, yeah, keep that in mind.
Yeah, so prepared casters and spontaneous casters are actually kind of balanced in Pathfinder. because in spontaneous you can cast them at any level you want, but you only know that limited amount. Whereas prepared, you can obviously prepare any of the spells, but you have to prepare them at that specific level.
Exactly.
Which is
other than that,
balanced.
Works pretty much as you would expect it to, except for some things where you can crit on attacks. You can fail if enemies like really fail against some of your spells, and you take like extra damage.
Yeah, there's these little like rules about like criticals and stuff, but those are not super important. But we don't really need to talk about them, at least. They are important actually in the game, but
they are important in the game, but not necessarily for this podcast.
Okay, and something else to say about spells. They're bad. Okay. No. Once again, we have not really played a lot.
Yeah, we've only played like a handful of sessions.
From looking at it, and from what we have played, just first level characters, spellcasters are not good. They're not.
I still think they get a lot better.
They might, and even in D&D, once again at first level, spellcasters are not that strong.
Unless you're a cleric.
Right, that's fine. I guess spellcasters don't have to be as strong as martial classes in the early levels, which is the only things we've played. But it's not. To me, they appear even weaker than in D&D, though. So, let's just say, for the sake of this, that a fighter in Pathfinder is at the same power level as a fighter from D&D. A wizard in Pathfinder, same amount of like spell slots essentially as a wizard in D&D, but like cantrips, less damage. So, just generally weaker. It appears like, at least to me, it appears like they're weak, like pretty weak.
I don't know. But also, that's a discussion for another day when we know more about the game and have played more, other than just like at first and second level. So,
yeah, but that's a little bit of a bummer from what I've seen. Like, no one on a playgroup wants to play a spellcaster because they don't look good and they don't seem good from our experience. Also, martial classes are just so fun in all their different little feats and stuff. They're just really, really cool. And I like that because martial classes in D&D can get kind of boring and repetitive after you play them a lot. But in this one, martial classes are really a joy. Really,
you have so many things that you can do. It's really nice.
Yeah, God, it's just such a joy for, like, fighters to be, like, really fun and customizable. Okay, yes. We don't really need to talk about the world, whatever world you can read all about it in the world guide or whatever. And they have a little section in the core rulebook. Let's talk about GMing an action. And okay, so
there's so many things to go over.
There are 3 different modes, right?
Yes, there's encounter, adventure, and roleplay.
Exploration, I think.
Exploration, sorry, not adventure. Exploration, You're right.
And downtime.
Yes.
Did you say roleplay?
I did.
Okay, that's fine.
I just woke up, guys. Give me a break.
Your game shifts between 3 different modes. Encounter mode, exploration mode, and downtime mode. Encounter mode, obviously, when you're in an encounter, so then it becomes turn-based, there's initiative, you know how that works. Exploration mode is when you're walking around, exploring, role-playing, stuff like that, you know. And then downtime mode is when you do, like, time skips, and then, like, your character can, like, do something during that time. You can, like, you know, build things, repair things, work somewhere, study something. So it's like, kind of not going to come up in your game too often, probably.
Well,
but anytime you do a time skip...
That depends.
It depends. Totally depends. But anytime you do a time skip, you can choose what you want to do as a character during that time skip. If you want to work as a bartender, if you want to study something, or whatever. Mm-hmm. It's kind of just giving names and rules to modes that already exist, but that just haven't been given a structure.
And I really like that. There's rules
and I like it a lot.
Like how much money you earn as you're like working downtime, or how you improve at a skill. And such. Yep. I like it. It's good.
I like it too.
I think it's there for a good reason.
Okay, let's talk about encounter mode. Very similar. You roll initiative, except this time it's based on perception. And then you have your turn, and boy oh boy, is combat just mwah, mwah, mwah. Now, not only already in combat, you have a gazillion options to do, right? Because of all your different features and feats and weapons and all that kind of juicy stuff. And each of your weapons can do like 3 different things.
Now,
There's action economy, baby.
Yeah.
Gabe, explain it.
Now, you know how in D&D 5th edition you're coming from that? You have your action economy, you're thinking like, okay, I have my action on my turn, got my movement, maybe a bonus action, very rarely a free action, mostly to dismiss things, and then a reaction that I typically don't take on my turn. In Pathfinder, you have all those other things, you know, your reaction, free action sometimes. In addition to that, you have 3 actions on your turn. You have 3 actions that you can spend doing a bajillion different things. You know, you can attack with 1 action. Sometimes you gain options to attack with 2 actions, which is a stronger attack, but requires more of an investment and you can do less things on your turn. You also use these actions to move, to crawl, to roll behind cover, to try and convince an enemy to stop fighting you. You can use these actions. There's 3 of them. You can choose what to do with each one of them on your turn, and it's so nice.
It's so nice. Yep, it's just you have 3 actions, and you can choose how you want to spend them. Most things take 1 action, though some take 2 or 3. You can get options to new actions based on like class feats and stuff you take. Also really cool. So you're not just restricted to the basic actions, which is like move and attack and stuff that Gabe was saying. And something that's really, really nice and so cool and such a great use of this new action economy system is spell casting. Some spells get better the more actions you use to cast them.
Which is such a cool idea.
There's a spell called Heal, 1st level spell. If you use 1 action, it has a range of touch, only heals X amount. If you use 2 actions to cast it, though, now it has a range of 30 feet, and it heals a little bit more. If you invest your whole turn, all 3 actions into casting this spell, range massively increases, plus more healing. So, this means just that the amount of tacticalness and stuff that this opens up is just amazing. Because as a spellcaster, you're like, okay, I want to move here, or I also want to attack, and I also want to cast a spell. But like, you have to choose which ones you want to do, and how much actions you want to invest into casting this spell. And if it's really worth it to move there, or if it's really worth it to take cover, or whatever. It's just so cool. So cool. Just makes it so tactical, strategical, makes your turn very, very interesting. This action economy.
And
also,
it shouldn't really slow down your pace of play if your characters are doing if your players are doing what they should be doing and planning things out before they get to their turn.
Yep. Exactly. Also, you can use all 3 actions to attack. Like, you can keep attacking, but for every attack after the first, you keep adding on what is it called? A debuff? A minus. You minus. You get a negative modifier on additional attack, so it gets harder and harder to attack. Keep on attacking in your turn, which means that you can attack multiple times, but you may not hit the other ones. Instead, maybe you want to use your weapon to trip them, or maybe you want to move, or maybe you want to raise your shield, or whatever it is.
So it encourages you to mix things up.
Yep. Just amazing. I would say the only thing that we found is it's hard, I think, for a DM to get used to this. Because now as a DM, every single character you're running has 3 actions, and it's a little complex and stuff because it's way harder to do this with multiple characters than just 1, and to be super tactical in that way. But I think once you get in the hang of it, I think it's gonna make combat really, really cool. Definitely when you're like, if all the monsters you're fighting against have 3 actions and they're all doing interesting things with their actions, like it just opens up such beautiful. It's beautiful. It's mwah, mwah, beautiful. Chef's kiss. My one little itty bitty irritation. So you also get one reaction, right? That you can take on another person's turn if it gets triggered. Opportunity attack is not automatic. That's a feat you have to take or you have to have. I don't like that. I think everyone should just always have opportunity attack. Just me. But, yeah, that's a little irritating thing for me. Once again, maybe it works, because combat obviously is going to be different because it's a different game than 5th edition. However, I found that I really like opportunity attacks, and I've even implemented it into our Star Wars game because I just think it makes, your positioning and all that stuff really important. Anywho, that's very minor. I mean, not super minor, but anyway, let's talk about building encounters and stuff. Let's jump into GMing. So you want to talk some about that a little bit?
First, we kind of skipped over one thing, which is degrees of success. Which I think we should talk about. What do you mean? What do you mean? What do I mean? How critical success and critical failures work in this.
Oh, sure. I thought we said that we didn't need to explain that, but sure.
Oh. Essentially, you crit if you have 10 over like the AC, or 10 over the DC or whatever that you're trying to meet, and critical failure if you're 10 below. So you can crit and critical failure more often.
Yes.
Bada bing, bada boom.
And
whatever.
a lot of things have different effects depending on if it's a critical success, a failure, or a critical failure. So that's cool. Once again, a little more detail and stuff like that. Okay, game mastering.
Now we get to game mastering. We can start off by talking about how much better the game mastery guide is. Just like worlds better.
Do you want me to get started on it? Do you want me
not too much. I'm saying, like, if you're interested in GMing it, you have a good resource. You have a very good resource in the game mastery guide that actually teaches you important stuff.
You guys.
And it's nice.
You guys. I don't know if you listened to our 5th edition rant. If you didn't, go. It's awesome. Great episode. But listen to me. I hate the Dungeon Master's Guide for D&D 5th edition. You can hear all about how and why in that episode. When me and Gabe looked through this new game mastery guide for Pathfinder the other day, I cried. I wept, actually. Sobbed. No. But it is exactly what a game mastery guide should be. What a Dungeon Master's Guide should be. It is exactly what it should be. I mean, it does not open up with a description of every single plane in the multiverse and how to build a world, and then get into a little bit of thing about alternate rules, and then get into magic items. No. It starts with saying, here's how to run the game. Here's tips on running encounters, running exploration. Here's tips on educating the rules. Nope, that's not the right word. Adjudicating the rules. On telling a story. On making good adventures. On structuring out a campaign. On designing encounters. Which, by the way, the way to design encounters with like challenge rating, XP, all that kind of stuff, miles better than D&D 5th edition. Then it gets into, here are some tools you can use. You know, kind of the Game Master's Workshop part of the DM's guide. If you want to add some of these alternate rules, here's how you can build your own monsters, build your own hazards, build your own items. Then at the end of that, it gets into maybe building your own world and building a nation and the description of the planes. And then all these different new alternate rules, all that kind of stuff. And then an NPC gallery. So real quick, the bestiary that came out early on with the core rulebook, all the monsters in there are just monsters. So there's no like humans, that kind of, not necessarily humans, but you know how like in D&D there's like guard, archmage, that stuff at the end of the monster manual that you can just apply your own race and stuff to. It's just stat blocks to use for NPCs. Great. This one has that times 100. There's so many little NPC stat blocks for every single thing ever. Beggars, kings, mages, prophets, pirates, cult leaders, everything. It's so many NPC stat blocks for every single kind of NPC your character's going to run into that you can just find and use, and just this game mastery guide is just perfect and beautiful and amazing. And sorry, Gabe, continue what you were saying.
No, I was just agreeing. It has everything that you could want. From, like, seriously, it breaks down, like, all the different, like, criminals. You know, it's not just, like, thief. You know? It's got grave robber, bandit, ruffian, charlatan, burglar, fence, assassin.
Yeah. I don't even know the difference between all of those. But they have a stat block for the individual ones. I mean, come on.
Ooh.
Perfect.
And the art is dope, too.
Oh, yeah. I mean, this is not proportional to D&D, of course. Also, the D&D art, amazing.
Mm-hmm.
But, yes, the art in these books is also phenomenal. Definitely the cult leader art. And I'm just going to leave it there. You're going to have to figure out what that means, and you're going to go find a Game Master Guide for yourself. He's our favorite.
Yeah. It's pretty dope.
Oh, also, this is super random, but I just remembered this. Pathfinder has these things called iconic characters. So there are these characters that you'll see pop up a lot in the different art pieces. There's one character for every of the core, each one of the core classes. So for the alchemist, it's like this little goblin alchemist with like these goggles. The barbarian is like this huge woman who wields this massive sword. The bard is this blonde halfling with sideburns. These characters you'll see that each represent a different class that pop up in all these different art pieces. They keep showing up. They have their own names and lore and stuff. I'm sure. Not super familiar with them, but I think that's really cool that they have this group of 12 different little iconic characters that show up in different art pieces together, working together, fighting monsters together. That each represent the different classes. I just think that's really fun.
Yeah.
That you kind of have these characters that you keep seeing, these recurring characters in the art and that kind of thing. I just think that's really fun. That was random, but
sure. But there are a lot of
right.
little cool things when it comes to this system.
Yes, so much little cool things. Okay. Oh, also, there's like 7,000 conditions, which is a good time. And like rules for potions and formulas, and anyway, and familiars and animal companions. Okay.
And everything.
Everything you ever want. So we've talked a lot about what we like. Clearly, I've done a lot of chef's kiss. Is there anything you'd like to add, Gabe, about any other extra things we want to talk about what you like about Pathfinder 2nd Edition?
I just want to reiterate that if you have an idea of like a character idea of, okay, I want someone who can, throw nets and like capture people up in nets, you don't have to, like, in 5th edition, like, okay, I guess I just go like fighter and like take a net and but the net's still really bad. I guess I'll just have to roll with that. You can make good builds for any sort of build that you want. You can make a competent net thrower, You can make someone who uses a whip actually useful. You can come up with these like weird character ideas and actually have mechanics to back it up and make you feel as if you aren't on par with just a normal fighter. Yeah.
Obviously, different builds are going to be better than others, but for the most part, yes, Gabe is right. Yes, you can build anything, essentially. And that's just creating characters, even if you don't play them. Really fun. I mean, just creating characters in D&D is fun.
Mm-hmm.
But creating characters in this is just such a joy. Such a joy. So much so that no one in our party, no one in our playgroup wants to GM because we all just want to be characters because they're so awesome. Okay. Cool. Now let's get on to things that we don't like, we don't super like. I wouldn't say there's like really anything I hate. What are some things, Gabe, that you don't like?
I would say the book isn't laid out exactly perfectly. It can be a little bit confusing figuring out how you make characters like this, but okay, that step is also more detailed over here. and to read
Yeah.
over here. Okay, now go to here to figure out what this is. There's going to be a lot of book searching when you're initially getting used to the system. A lot of it. And everything isn't exactly in the place you expect it to be, necessarily.
Yeah. I've never used the appendix of any D&D book ever in my life. I've used the appendix for all the Pathfinder books that I've looked at all the time. So appendices are your friend, and you're going to have to use it when you're still getting used to the system. I mean, like any system, it's going to take some while to get used to. That's just how it goes. There's also some cool online resources that have been really helpful, because it's nice when you can just look something up and then just have it right there, look up a feat or a rule or whatever, or one of the 27,000 conditions, and just get it right there. There's one called the Archives of Nethys, and then another one.
Yeah. Like pf2.easy.
What did you say?
It's like Pathfinder Easy or something like that.
Yeah.
That's what I'm called. Something like that.
So, yeah,
there's a lot of nice online tools that you can use.
Yes. And the character sheet, the Pathfinder character sheet on Roll20 is really nice as well.
Yes.
Very, very
and
nice.
And if you're interested, hop in our Discord and I'll put links to these sites that you can use.
Oh, yeah. For sure. What channel should they do that in? Because we have a D&D channel, but... the suggestion channel? General, maybe?
I guess. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, pop in there. And if enough of you guys like Pathfinder and stuff, maybe we'll make a whole Pathfinder channel where we can discuss all that homebrew and the advanced player guide and all that kind of stuff. If there's a big enough audience of you guys that like Pathfinder or want to get into it. And of course, we have the looking for a group thing. So if you're interested in playing Pathfinder, but you don't have anyone who wants to play with you, pop on our Discord and see if you can find some people to get into a game with. Yes, I would say yes, the core rulebook and stuff is not laid out really amazingly. I feel like all these dang books suffer with that, no matter what system it is. Yeah. Once again, from what I've experienced, the thing about spellcasters, I don't like that. Can't super judge yet. But yeah, that's a little irritating to me. Makes me not want to play a spellcaster. I would say another thing that's irritating, but that they fixed, was that because they released these pretty important books at different times, you can really only start getting into it now. Because we wanted to DM stuff a while ago, but the Game Mastery Guide wasn't out. The Advanced Player Guide wasn't out and stuff. And it really stunted us being able to play, like as a GM, getting into a very new complex system like this, without having the Game Master Guide, without having any stats for NPCs, really hard. Definitely because we were playing a campaign in an urban environment. So that was very irritating. But basically all the core stuff is out now. They have a world guide, core rulebook, Advanced Player's Guide, a Game Mastery Guide, and they also have a couple adventures, which I have not really looked at.
I've looked at them
so
a bit.
I can't tell you.
Seem fine.
Yeah,
these
bet they're fine.
things called like adventure paths and such.
Like with any new system, I would suggest if you want to, I would suggest running a pre-made adventure in that system so you can get the hang of things. Yeah, I mean, I like most things. Once again, we have not really played it a lot. I don't... Okay. Another thing I don't like, which may grow on me, though, my opinion on this may change, is the rules for every single thing you want to do. You know, jumping, climbing, flipping, all that kind of stuff. That's irritating because it puts, like, as a GM and as a play group, like, you know there's a rule for this, and then you have to go look it up. Whereas in D&D, it's just like, if you want to do any of the things, just make an athletics check and just do it. It's just very simple and quick. Once again, that's how the system is. Maybe this will change, but I don't really like that. Because, yes, you can just make an athletics check. But because, like, there are rules for it and stuff, like, you kind of want to look it up, make sure you do it right. And if someone, chose a skill feat that has to do with that, then you want to be able to honor that decision and that investment that they made and do that thing and look it up in the book and get it right.
In the GM's guide, it says when it comes across something where you need to look it up, If it's a major thing, then spend the time looking it up. If it's just a minor thing, just roll with whatever you want to as a GM, and you can look it up for the next time it comes up.
Yeah, exactly.
So
But
don't
it's like,
waste the time
at
on
least for
small
me,
things.
that's how it is. Like, if I'm also playing in a world that I didn't create, like the Star Wars universe or Middle-earth or whatever, I also feel an imperative to look stuff up to get my facts right, like in canon or whatever. When we run into something in the story or a player has a question about the world, instead of just making things up and just moving the game along. Maybe that's just me. I assume that's other people as well. But that's kind of irritating. That there's just sometimes because there's such thing as like way too much detail. And once again, not super familiar with this system yet, so it's going to get easier on me for sure once I start playing more. But there is a lot of detail, and it's very overwhelming. And I think if the book was laid out a little bit differently, and the Game Mastery Guide had come out alongside the player's the core rulebook, then I think it would have been much easier. Okay. Anything else to say before we get into talking about whether or not this is the game for you?
No, not really.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. Gabe, who do you think this is for?
If you're someone who has played D&D, you really like it, enjoy the rule system, but you just want a little bit more out of it, you know? You want more out of just your martial class where you cast sword every turn, you know? So to speak. If you are someone who wants a spellcaster with lots of different options and spells, they can do all sorts of different things, all sorts of little bonuses, all sorts of little effects and debuffs. If you're someone who finds D&D combat really boring at higher levels, if you're someone who wants to be really good at one specific thing, but you just can't seem to find a way to do it in D&D. If you're someone who wants a specific build that you can't make viable in D&D. If someone who just wants a little bit more detail, a little bit more.
I would not say a little bit.
What?
I would not say a little bit. But if you do want more detail, yeah.
More options at every single point in leveling up. For every single character. You can customize everything. If that sounds good to you, take a look at the system.
Yep. I would totally agree. If you're someone who's played a lot of role-playing games, you're getting tired of D&D, you know it very well. Or just, you're someone who loves the detail, loves complexity. You're going to love this. You're going to like it a lot, I think. And if you're someone who likes role-playing games but is not that good with the rules or of D&D, and you're still getting used to like 5th edition and stuff, but you like the concept and you like role-playing and all that kind of stuff, I would say stick with 5th edition for now, or whatever system you're playing with, until you get really comfortable with that. And even once you get comfortable with it, like 5th edition's awesome, keep playing it, we're still playing it, and we've been playing it for years. It's just, if it ever does start to get boring or repetitive or whatever, or you want that next level, I'd say hop into Pathfinder, but definitely not for everyone. I would say D&D is for everyone. I would say Pathfinder is not for everyone.
I wouldn't say D&D is for everyone, because there are people who really don't want to play D&D 5th edition because of how simple it is.
Yeah, okay, yeah, I guess that is true. But yes, Pathfinder not for everyone, but really, really cool and interesting. I'm excited to learn more about it and play it some more in this future here. Our gaming group wants to do some more Pathfinder stuff. And yeah, I'm excited to learn more, and hopefully we can talk about it, this game, sometime down the road once we've had a lot of experience with it, and see if our opinions have changed or what other But if you guys are interested in Pathfinder, I know it's kind of growing in popularity and stuff. Let us know on the Discord if you want us to hear more stuff about Pathfinder, if you want us to like review Pathfinder stuff. If there's a big enough audience for it, we'll definitely get more into it and talk more about it here on the podcast.
Of course.
For sure. Or if you want us to talk about another game. If you want us to talk about that Star Wars game we've always been talking about, or another game you've heard of, Vampire Masquerade or Call of Cthulhu or whatever it is, let us know in the Discord, comment on our Instagram, comment on our YouTube. If you want to hear about us talk about, review, whatever, another system that's not D&D.
All right. And that's Pathfinder 2nd Edition in a nutshell.
Yep. Hey, thanks for listening. Once again, follow us on Instagram at D20_Academy. Join our Discord. It's a good time. You can do that by commenting on Instagram or DMing us or whatever. We have a YouTube channel, D20 Academy. You can go find that if you want. It's really cool.
Mm-hmm. Next week's episode. It's a class we build on the Bard.
I'm so excited.
I'm excited as well. We've done a bit of work. We've got some great ideas down on paper. It's coming out next week. Keep an eye out for it. Join our Discord so you can see the class document and follow along with us. It's going to be great.
I love it. I'm so excited.
Without further ado.
All right.
See you next week. Play Mystic in the meantime.